Hello everyone, welcome to the third part of lecture on ADR mechanisms under the Bangladesh Labour Act. We have followed in the previous lecture about the durations of arbitration process, how much time arbitrators can take and what are the issues related to arbitration, how the decisions of the arbitration continues to be effective. Uh, yeah, and we also highlighted several crucial issues with respect to the trade unions and employers associations, in which ADR can be a very useful tool for both the parties. So, in line with whatever is discussed about the scenarios of ADR related mechanism, scenarios of Bangladesh Labour Act, in line with the uh, processes of how industries are operating, one can look at the inclusion of collective bargaining process, or what we call it as mediation. The inclusion of mediation and no, sorry, the inclusion of conciliation and the inclusion of what we call it collective bargaining process, which is negotiation under the Bangladesh Labour Act. How far is it convenient and useful for the parties? So this is what one can ask uh, to revise the labor law to see how ADR mechanisms are going to be useful. Another section is quite relevant in our context, because when we start the lecture, we started with the industrial dispute. Now, in that, we have seen how and what industrial dispute does contain. So, in order to follow the same track, we should look at section 212, which talks about the cessation of industrial dispute. It says that if the party raising an industrial dispute under section 210 uh, fails to do, that means if a party cannot avail section 210 requirements, if a party fails to follow section 210 in spite of the existence of an industrial dispute, then what happens? It is first that if the party who is supposed to raise an industrial dispute under section 210 fails to make a request of the conciliator to conciliate the dispute under section 210 subsection 4, because what it tries to show here is that once the parties fail in the collective bargaining process, then they will go for conciliation. Now, if the parties fails to go for conciliation, this is number one. Number two, commence a strike or lockout uh, on the date specified in the notice served under section 211 subsection 1, or refer the dispute to the labor court for settlement, or serve notice of strike or lockout within the period as required. So these three situations, either one of these three situations if arises, one is that uh, after collective bargaining they fails to establish or start the conciliation process. Secondly, they commence a strike or lockout according to the law, not illegal one. Thirdly, they refer the dispute to the labor court for settlement, or they have served notice to the employers for a strike or lockout. Then the dispute shall cease to exist on the expiry of the period as specified. Uh, Subsection 2 says that when an industrial dispute has ceased to exist under subsection 1, No fresh dispute on the same subject shall be raised within a period of 1 year from the date of cessation of such dispute. The reason why it does not appreciate to again begin the dispute within a year, it would be perhaps to control the politicization and abuse of power sort of by either authorities. And secondly, when a dispute arises, the law requires to solve it as early as possible. Now, if the parties play game of play game related to the dispute settlement, and they make it as a part of their tool of achieving something, certainly that interrupts. Therefore, this kind of year-long flexibility, year-long restriction is provided, so that no party can take or control the process in it. So, significance of ADR in industrial dispute, we highlighted several questions. We are going to highlight several issues. Earlier, I think we have made an indication that how in the process of dispute settlement, the ADR mechanisms are useful or helpful. So, in the significance part, one can first argue that incapability of affording the expense of the court proceedings by workers is an opportunity for the worker to utilize through ADR process. It is an advantage for the worker. It looks the interest of the worker to avail the legal protection. Secondly, ADR is faster, less costly, easier, less formality involved. Because these are some of the issues where parties do not reach or cannot reach into the actual outcome. It also says that ADR is less confrontational or adversarial. In a situations where workers and employers have a very different or unique kind of relationship, and the smoothness in the relationship serves best for the industry and for all the individuals involved. Going to the court by either side makes the situation different, unless grave breaches or serious um, violations causing discrimination also deprived the parties, would certainly appreciate the parties to go to the court. But for very small issues, going to the court and taking the other parties into account, doing all these things doesn't appreciate in the productivity. Thirdly, ADR encourages creativity and searching for practical solutions, because in the collective bargaining process, the parties will settle themselves. So that's a wonderful issue. One can experience. This is the fourth point. There is a much wide range of outcomes with ADR than with courts. It can produce a solution which satisfies both sides. And finally, it says that the system will work best when established trade unions are in the establishment. Yeah, it has been noticed that before the Rana Plaza disaster, there were even not even 10% of the industries having a proper trade union. However, at least a new changes has been experienced after the Rana Plaza. A good number of industries started to have a very sufficient or efficient independent trade union body, which will look after the interest. And that is what is very important in the context today, considering the economic situations and of course the others. This is why the law appreciates to bestow significance for the alternative dispute measures, and for having proper minimum requirements in the industry as required under the Bangladesh Labor Act and its rules of procedure. But of course, for our purpose, we will see, and we have seen how ADR process fits in the, or in the Bangladesh Labor Act. What are the all ADR models and mechanisms under the act? Whether ADR is useful, especially in the context of employers and workers, entitlements and privileges, or employers and workers relationships. So going to, rather than going to the formal court, settling through ADR seems to be a more viable option for them, particularly for the workers who are incapacitated to carry on everything they are planning to, or they have expectations they are expecting to. So that's all. I thank you for your concentrations and looking forward to the next sessions.